Maps. Governor Spencer Cox has called the legislature into special session on Monday, with one of the items on the agenda being to discuss a vote upon a new congressional map for Utah's districts. Joining me for more is Midday executive producer Andy Cupp. And Andy, this just came down.
It did, just this morning, Maria, and there are several things that they're looking to discuss here in the special session on Monday. So I just kind of wanted to give a rundown of them. So obviously we have the congressional maps, like you just spoke about with Elizabeth. They are the hot topic. Everyone wants to know what's going to happen with the congressional districts in 2026. They'll also be discussing Senator Brady Brammer's bill that would, as it says here, use the best available data and scientific and statistical methods to use in evaluating redistricting plans. So looking ahead long term, how are we going to create the maps? But there are several other things that I thought were particularly interesting, including one that's going to take a look at how certain election records are kept and for how long they are kept.
Oh, what is that about?
I'm not entirely sure. It's looking at amendments to House Bill 263, Election Records Amendment from the last legislative session. So this is particularly looking at new definitions, defining new terms, and then it's going to address retention requirements for certain election records. So that'll be one that's going to be really interesting to watch. Another one that really stood out to me is one that was actually vetoed in the last legislative session, and it was who picks the Chief Justice of the Utah Supreme Court. And as our listeners might recall, Governor Cox vetoed that one. It was passed. The House and the Senate were like, okay, yes, you get to pick
that gave the governor the ability to pick that justice, and he said not so fast.
Yeah, it had kind of an advisory role from the Senate that they could also look at it, but he said, if I remember correctly at the time, that he didn't want that much kind of power consolidated into one person. Because as of right now, it is the rest of the justices on the court who pick the Chief Justice. And so they're going to look at that and consider changes for the process of selection and the term of the Chief Justice. So that's going to be a really interesting one to watch as well. And then the last one that really stood out to me is kind of looking at rural health transformation programs. As we know, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to healthcare in rural Utah.
Providers, facilities,
exactly.
You name it.
And a lot of concern has also been raised by people over the last little bit as they've been doing budget cuts is Medicaid and Medicare. And a lot of these rural hospitals rely on those funds to stay in business. I'm not entirely sure if this one will go in there, but this will address at least kind of how some of these rural healthcare systems are funded. So that's another one that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Okay. And this is all going to happen in a special session on Monday at the state capitol.
Yep, beginning at 9 a.m. And I am sure we'll have somebody up there all through the day.
I'm sure we will too. Thank you. That is KSL's Midday executive producer, Andy Cupp.